I still remember the night they came for me. Blue lights flashing through the blinds, tires screeching outside my window, voices shouting my name like it was a death sentence. I had my Glock in one hand, my heart in the other. I peeked through the curtain and saw faces I used to ride with, brothers, loading up their clips, moving in silence like wolves. They weren't cops. They were Crips, my own set. And the look in their eyes told me everything. Somebody had flipped the story. Somebody wanted me gone. You're watching Tales from a Block. Hit that like button and subscribe. I got real stories from the streets for you. Name's DeAndre Mason, but everybody used to call me Blue. Not just because I rep the color, but because I was calm when everybody else was losing their heads. In South Central, that's a rare thing. You stay calm, you stay alive. Most of the time. I came up on 79th and Hoover, back when the Crips ran half the block and the Bloods had the other half looking like a war zone. The air always smelled like smoke and sweat, like something just burned down. Even the palm trees looked tired. Growing up here, you don't dream about college. You dream about respect. You dream about your name meaning something when it gets whispered at the corner store. And for a minute, mine did. I started as a lookout, 12 years old, posted up on the corner with a BB gun and a bag of chips, pretending I was ready for anything. By 15, I was running small plays, weed, a few pills, whatever moved fast. By 18, I was wearing blue head to toe with a burner on my hip and a chain that said 79th. The older homies saw how I moved. I wasn't the loudest, I wasn't the craziest, but I got things done. Quiet, precise. When you don't talk too much, people start to listen when you do. That's how I climbed. By 28, I was second in command, right under Big D-Lo, the OG who ran our set. When D-Lo talked, people listened. When I talked, people acted. That's how it worked. Until jealousy started creeping in. We had a new wave of youngbloods. Hungry, reckless, desperate to make a name. Among them was Trayvon Harris, but everybody called him T-Stone. He was smooth, always smiling, always talking, the type that made people feel like they were part of something bigger. I brought him myself. He was smart, loyal, or at least he pretended to be. Then there was Lil 9, real name Rico Daniels. He was just a kid with dreadlocks and too much energy for his own good, always trying to prove something. I saw a bit of me in him. Maybe that's why I gave him too much trust. They used to call me UNC, said I was like family. But family don't plant knives in your back. It started small, whispers in the air, Blue's slipping. Blue got soft. Blue taking too much money off the top. All lies. But lies spread faster than truth in the hood. And when power's on the line, truth don't matter. Only perception does. One night, D-Lo called a meeting at the warehouse on 79th and Main, the spot we use for all serious talk. The air was thick with smoke and sweat. Music blasting in the distance, but inside, you could hear the tension breathing. He sat at the center table, arms crossed, face heavy. T-Stone was on one side, Lil 9 on the other, both quiet like they already knew the script. Blue, D-Lo said, "We got a problem." I nodded, leaning on the table. "What kind of problem?" He slid a brown envelope across. Inside were pictures, grainy, dark, but clear enough to see a deal going down in an alley. Bags exchanged, guns out, faces half hidden. Only one thing stood out. My blue hoodie. "That's you, right?" he asked, voice flat. I stared at the photo. Same hoodie, same chain. But that wasn't me. Someone had staged it. "Hell no, that ain't me," I said. "You know damn well I don't touch dope deals, personally no more." D-Lo leaned back. "Then why the hell we got cops breathing down our necks the same night that picture was taken? Somebody talking blue, somebody moving sloppy." I looked at T-Stone. He looked back calm, too calm. Lil 9 wouldn't meet my eyes. And that's when I knew. After that night, everything changed. Calls stopped coming. Meetings happened without me. Money I was supposed to collect got lost. The same dudes who used to dap me up started crossing the street when they saw me. I could feel the shift, like the block itself was turning its back. Then one night, I heard from Kiera. She came to my apartment after dark, wearing a denim jacket and that look she only had when she was scared. "You need to get out for a minute," she said. "Out? What do you mean out?" They saying you the reason Marcus got locked up. Word is you snitched. My heart dropped. Snitched? You serious? She nodded, tears in her eyes. T-Stone been spreading it. Says he got proof. D-Lo listening to him. That was it. That was the play. They couldn't beat me face to face, so they buried my name. The next night, I saw the first blue Impala circling my block. Then another. Then a van parked 2 houses down, lights off, engine running. I grabbed my bag, pistol, cash, burner phone, and slipped out the back. By the time I hit the alley, I could hear footsteps on the gravel. Yo, Blue, where you at? Voices echoing, not friendly ones. I ducked behind a dumpster, breathing heavy. The air smelled like gasoline and trash. My fingers shook around the trigger. I saw them, 5 deep, blue rags tied tight, guns out. T-Stone leading the pack. He looked around, scanning the dark. Check the back. He couldn't be gone far. I stayed still, heart slamming against my ribs. That's when one of them, Lil 9, turned and looked dead at my hiding spot. He hesitated. Then he said, "Nah, he ain't here. Must have dipped already." And just like that, they moved on. He spared me. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe out of fear. Either way, I was still breathing. I spent the next few nights crashing at a cousin's place near Inglewood, laying low, thinking. Every sound outside made me flinch. Every knock on the door felt like death tapping twice. That's when the anger started to build. Not just at them, at me. I should have seen it coming. The envy, the ambition, the fake smiles. In the streets, you can't ever stop watching your own crew. Not even for a second. But I did. And they used that second to erase me. A week later, I went back to the block in disguise. Hoodie low, mask up. Needed to see it with my own eyes. The mural on 79th, the one that used to have D-Lo and me painted side by side, was repainted. My face, gone. Covered up with blue graffiti that said, "Long live the set." T-Stone was posted up outside the liquor store, new chain on his neck, the same one I used to wear. He was laughing with a couple of young dudes, slapping hands like he owned the world. That's when I realized something. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted my throne. And seeing him wearing my chain, that's when something inside me clicked. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Later that night, I broke into one of our old stash houses. Place still smelled like weed and gun oil. I found an old burner, half a brick of cash, and a duffel full of memories. On the wall, I took a blue spray can and wrote one thing. Blue still breathing. It wasn't for them to see right away. It was for the streets. A whisper in the dark. A ghost coming back. 3 days later, I ran into Lil 9 again. He was alone this time, walking out of the corner store, hoodie up, bag of chips in one hand, phone in the other. When he saw me, he froze. "Damn, Blue, they said you dead." I finished for him. "Yeah, that's what they want people to think." He looked around nervously. "Man, you shouldn't be here. T-Stone got people watching." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm here. Tell me something, 9. Why'd you cover for me that night?" He swallowed hard. "You raised me, man. I couldn't just." "Then help me fix this." I cut him off. "Help me get a D-Lo. He's the only one who can stop this madness." 9 shook his head. "D-Lo don't run things no more, Blue." T-Stone got him scared. He got half the set on payroll. Anybody speak up, they disappear. That told me everything I needed to know. The set wasn't mine anymore. It wasn't even D-Lo's. It was T-Stone's empire now, built on my name, my sweat, my blood. And if I was going to take it back, I'd have to move smart. Real smart. That night, I sat on a rooftop overlooking the city. Police sirens wailed in the distance, lights flashing blue and red like the streets couldn't decide whose side they were on. I pulled out my old chain, the one with the broken clasp, and wrapped it around my hand. "Y'all took everything from me," I whispered. "My name, my set, my family." I looked down at the street where I used to walk proud. I'm taking it all back. Next morning, I got a message on the burner. Unknown number. No name. Just one line. "Meet me under the 110 bridge at midnight. I got something you need to see. Come alone." No signature. No clue who it was. But the message was sent from Kiera's old number. And that's when my pulse started racing again. Because if Kiera was reaching out, It meant the game was already in motion. I sat in that abandoned motel room all day, staring at the cracked screen of that burner phone, thinking about that message. Meet me under the 110 bridge at midnight. No signature, no explanation, just that. Part of me knew it could be a trap. Hell, it probably was. But another part, the part that still hoped Kiera hadn't given up on me, told me to go. When you've lost everything, hope's a dangerous thing. But it's all you got. I spent the rest of the afternoon cleaning my piece, checking the mag, wiping it down till it gleamed under the flickering motel light. I hadn't slept properly in days. Eyes bloodshot, hands trembling just enough to piss me off. The mirror across from me reflected a ghost in a blue hoodie. My beard had grown out, face thinner, eyes harder. I used to look like a man who ran things. Now, I looked like a man who lost everything but the will to fight. By the time midnight came around, I was walking down that cracked sidewalk toward the bridge. The city felt quiet, too quiet, just the hum of distant traffic and a dog barking somewhere far off. Streetlights flickered, half the bulbs dead. The air smelled like oil and rain. Under the bridge, shadows moved like ghosts. A train rumbled overhead, shaking dust loose from the concrete. I tightened my grip on the Glock inside my hoodie pocket. Kiera, I called out, voice low but steady. A figure stepped out from behind a pillar. She wore a dark denim jacket, black leggings, hood up. When she pulled it back, I saw her face, tired eyes, lips trembling slightly. "Blue," she said, almost whispering it, like the name hurt. For a second, it was like time rewound, back before everything fell apart. But that moment didn't last. "Not here, not now. You shouldn't have come," I said. "If they see you with me." "I don't care," she interrupted. "You need to know what's really going on." I looked around, then talked fast. She hesitated, then handed me a folded piece of paper. "They planned this months ago, D. Before that raid, before the pictures. It was all T-Stone. He wanted you out the way." I unfolded the paper. It was a list. Names, drop points, bank accounts. My name was at the top, circled in red ink. "What is this?" "Ledger," she said. "Real one, not the fake one they showed D-Lo. This is how T-Stone been moving money, deals, guns, side hustles. He been cutting D-Lo out, using your name to cover the trail. He told everybody you flipped to the cops to save yourself." I stared at her, rage boiling under my skin. "Where'd you get this?" She hesitated again, then looked down. "From D-Lo. He gave it to me to pass to you." I froze. "So D-Lo's still backing me?" Kiera's eyes flicked up to mine. "He wants to, but he's scared. T-Stone got most of the set behind him now. The younger ones worship him. Anyone who questions it ends up gone. D-Lo just trying to stay alive." A car engine echoed in the distance, a low growl that got closer. Kiera's eyes widened. "They followed me," she whispered. "Get down." I hissed, pulling her behind a concrete pillar as headlights cut through the darkness. A black SUV rolled under the bridge, stopping right where we'd been standing. Doors opened. 3 men stepped out, all Crips, blue rags, heavy chains, pistols drawn. One of them I recognized, Smoke, T-Stone's new enforcer. He had a crooked grin and dead eyes. "Yo, Kiera," he called out, voice dripping with arrogance. "Told you T-Stone don't like secrets. You should have stayed in your lane." I pressed my back against the pillar, gun ready, heart pounding. Smoke laughed. "And Blue, you really got the balls to show your face again, huh? Man, you must got a death wish." I peeked around the corner. They were fanning out, one to the left, one to the right. I waited till the first one came too close, then swung out and fired. One shot clean to the chest. The echo bounced off the bridge. The second one ducked behind a pillar and returned fire, bullets sparking off the concrete. I grabbed Kiera and pulled her deeper into the shadows. "Stay down," I shouted. Smoke yelled, "You done, Blue. You don't walk away from this one." I leaned out just enough to see him, that grin still plastered on his face. I aimed for it, pulled the trigger, missed. He ducked and fired back. Kiera screamed as a bullet shattered the concrete above her head. Dust fell around us like snow. I moved fast, circling to the right, footsteps silent on the gravel. One of his boys tried to flank me, but I caught him slipping. Gun to his temple, one pull, lights out. That left smoke. He stepped out from behind the SUV, gun raised, face furious now. You think you could take everything back, huh? You dead already, fool. T-Stone made sure of that. I fired twice. First missed. Second caught him in the shoulder. He fell back, dropping the gun, screaming. I walked up slow, pressing my Glock to his forehead. Tell T-Stone, I said, voice calm, Blue still breathing. Then I pulled the trigger. The sound echoed across the empty night. Kiera stared at me, shaking. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. I cut her off. They'd have done worse to us. I grabbed the ledger, shoved in my jacket, and looked around. We gotta move. Now. We ditched the SUV in an alley off Florence Avenue, wiped it clean, and burned the rest. By the time the flames started licking the sides, Kiera was crying quietly. I never wanted it to go this far, she said. It always goes this far, I told her. You're just finally seeing what it really is. She looked up at me. What are you gonna do now? Prove who I am, I said, and make T-Stone pay. She shook her head. You can't take him on alone. You got too many people. I don't need people, I said, staring at the fire. I just need truth. The next few days, I moved like a ghost. No phone, no calls, just alleys and side streets, watching for shadows. I saw how T-Stone ran things, same old hustle, but now he moved heavier. Guns, money, fear. He had kids calling him Big Bro, like he was some savior of the block. He wasn't saving nothing. He was poisoning it. I watched him one night outside the liquor store where I used to post up. He was laughing, flashing stacks of cash, telling stories about how Blue went soft. Every word out his mouth felt like a blade twisting deeper. That night, I made my decision. I was going to make him choke on his own lies. But first, I needed D-Lo. Finding D-Lo wasn't easy. He'd gone underground, hiding out in an apartment near Long Beach, keeping out of sight. But word travels fast when your name used to mean something. I found him sitting in the dark, a pistol on the table, TV flickering low. He looked older, heavier, tired. When he saw me, his hand twitched toward the gun. Relax, I said. If I wanted you gone, I wouldn't have knocked. He sighed, leaned back. You got some nerve coming here, Blue. I got proof, I said, tossing the ledger on the table. Everything T-Stone been doing behind your back. He used my name to cover his deals. D-Lo stared at it for a long time. Then he said quietly, even if it's true, don't matter now. Streets already chose him. So that's it. You just let him take everything. He looked up at me, anger flashing in his eyes. You think I ain't tried? Half the set scared, the other half hungry. You know how it is. Loyalty only lasts till the money runs out. I took a deep breath. I'm gonna end this, D. But I need to know, you with me or not. He looked at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. You bring me hard proof, something even those fools can't deny. I'll back you. But if you miss, they'll kill you before sunrise. I've been dead to them for weeks, I said. Ain't nothing new. We shook hands, the same handshake we used back when everything still meant something. Then I left, the weight of the ledger heavy in my jacket. The next night, I hit one of T-Stone's stash houses. Quiet operation, 2 guards both half asleep. Took them down without noise. Inside, I found what I was looking for, cash, guns, and a flash drive. Plugged it into an old laptop I stole from a pawn shop. Inside were receipts, coded messages, shipment schedules, offshore transfers. Proof that T-Stone wasn't just hustling. He was selling out his own people. Working with some cartel out in San Diego. That was my ticket. I sent a few screenshots to D-Lo through an encrypted line. Told him to leak it to the old heads. Let the streets see who their leader really was. Then I waited. 2 days later, I started hearing it. Whispers in the alleys, tension in the air. The cracks were showing. The young ones still rode with T-Stone, but the older ones, they started asking questions. I knew T-Stone wouldn't take it quiet. That night, I got a call. Private number. I answered. You think you slick, huh? It was T-Stone's voice. Calm, but shaking underneath. You think you can play me? I ain't playing, I said. Just cleaning up the mess you made. He laughed cold. You forget who built this set now? You a ghost, Blue. You don't run shit no more. Maybe not, I said. But ghosts got a way of haunting people. He paused. Then his tone dropped. Meet me tomorrow. 12 sharp. The court by the projects. You man enough to talk face to face. I'll be there. Good, he said. Bring that proof. We'll settle this like men. When the line cut, I knew what it meant. It wasn't a meeting. It was an execution. Kiera begged me not to go. They'll kill you the second you show up, she said. I smiled faintly. They'll try. The next day, the sun hit the streets like fire. The court was empty except for broken glass and old sneakers hanging from the fence. I walked in slow, head high, Glock under my hoodie. T-Stone was already there, sitting on the hood of a blue Charger. Lil Nine stood beside him, eyes nervous. Two more soldiers behind them, hands near their guns. Blue, T-Stone said, standing up, arms open like we were brothers again. You really showed up. Respect. Cut the act, I said. You wanted me here, now I'm here. What's the play? He smiled. Ain't no play, bro. Just wanted to give you a chance to say sorry before we end this. Saw the... I laughed. For what? For making you what you are. His smile faded. You always thought you better than me. I never thought that, I said. But I did think you were loyal. Guess I was wrong. He reached for his gun. That tiny movement that told me everything. And just as he did, Lil Nine stepped forward. Yo, T-Don't, he said softly. T-Stone turned, eyes wide. What you say? I seen the files, man, Nine said. You working with the cartel? Selling us out. T-Stone's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. I know enough, Nine said. Blue was right. The shot came fast. One bullet, straight to Lil Nine's chest. He dropped before I could even move. I fired back instantly, the world exploding in noise and smoke. Bullets tore through the air, shattering glass, echoing off concrete. T-Stone dove behind the Charger, his goons spraying wildly. I rolled behind a pillar, heart pounding. Kiera's voice flashed in my head. They'll kill you the second you show up. She wasn't wrong. I fired twice, hitting one of the soldiers. The other ran. T-Stone tried to climb into the car, but I shot the tire, glass flying everywhere. He crawled out, blood on his arm, fury on his face. This how you want it to end? He shouted. I stepped closer, gun steady. You made that choice when you came for me. He raised his weapon, but before he could shoot, sirens wailed in the distance, loud, closing fast. Someone had tipped the cops. T-Stone hesitated. That half-second was all I needed. I fired once. The bullet hit his leg. He fell, screaming, gun clattering away. I walked up, standing over him. You took everything from me, I said. Now you answer for it. He looked up at me, face twisted in pain. You think you can fix this? You kill me. You just another dead man walking. Maybe, I said, but at least they'll remember who I was. Then I hit him across the head with the gun, knocking him out cold. Sirens grew louder. I grabbed the ledger, my chain, and started running through the alley, heart racing, sirens chasing my shadow. Behind me, I heard tires screeching, cops shouting, chaos exploding. But I didn't stop. I just kept running toward the one thing I still had left. My name. It had been 3 days since the shootout on 113th, and the block still felt like it was holding its breath. Word spread fast. Trey flipped on the Crips. People whispered it on porches, said it low at the corner stores, and dropped it like poison at night under flickering streetlights. I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me everywhere I went. I couldn't even step out without feeling like every pair of eyes followed me. I holed up in an abandoned duplex off Wilmington, a place I used to crash back in my early days when I was still just a lookout. The walls were tagged with blue crowns and gang names half faded from years of rain, but it was quiet. Nobody knew I was there. I spent hours just sitting by the broken window, chain smoking, watching the street, thinking about who could have really been behind it. It kept coming back to two names, D-Lock and Snipe. They were my boys once. We came up together, jumped in the same night, bled for the same block. But lately, things had changed. D-Lock started rolling heavier with the newer generation. Young Crips who didn't remember the old codes, didn't respect what we built. Snipe followed him like a shadow. I remembered the night of the setup, the drop on the stash house. It was supposed to be an easy grab. We were told the Bloods had a spot near Alameda full of product. I was running point like always, coordinating cars, making sure we had clean exits. But when we hit the place, there wasn't a single Blood inside. Just cops. No backup, no warning, no lookout. It was a slaughterhouse. 3 of our soldiers got locked up that night. 1 got hit in the leg, and somehow the word came out that I was the one who fed the cops the location. It didn't make sense, but logic didn't matter in the streets. Once your name got dirt on it, truth became irrelevant. I thought back to that night again, over and over, trying to remember every detail. D-Lock was the one who told me about the stash. Said it came from a reliable source. Snipe handled the comms. I should have seen it then. They set me up perfect. Let me take the lead so all fingers would point my way when it blew up. And now they were running the show. The Crips had always been a family, but the kind of family where love could turn to hate overnight. And I was the ghost of fallen brother, watching my own crew take orders from snakes. One night, I was sitting in that busted-up duplex, staring at the blue rag tied around my wrist, when I heard a knock. 3 taps, then 2 more. It was the old code. I went for my gun, keeping it low, and opened the door just a crack. It was Maya. She stepped inside quick, pulled her hoodie down, eyes darting around the room. "You really shouldn't be here, Trey," she whispered. "They got people watching the whole neighborhood. If they find out you're still breathing, it's over." I looked at her, tall, brown-skinned, hair in braids, still rocking her silver hoops. She used to run with us back when I was still with the set. She wasn't a member, but she was family. She'd been with my brother before he got locked. "What you doing here?" I asked, voice low. She looked at me like she was trying to find the right words. "I had to warn you. D-Lock's been talking. So they got word you hiding out near Wilmington. They planning to move on you tonight." I froze. My gut tightened. "You sure?" She nodded. "He paying some young hitters to do it. Lil Tone, Dreek, them boys from the 120s. They hungry. They'll take that money and do it fast." For a second, I just stood there, my mind racing. "Why you helping me, Maya? You know what it means if they find out you talk to me." She sighed, looking away. "Because I know you, Trey. You ain't no snitch. And I ain't gonna let them rewrite what really happened." Her voice cracked on the last part. And for a moment, the noise outside, sirens, dogs barking, a car peeling off, all faded away. I wanted to thank her, but instead I said, "You got somewhere safe to go?" She nodded. "I'll be fine. But you need to disappear at least for a while. Don't try to fight back yet. Not till you got proof." Proof. That word hit me like a bullet. Proof was the only thing that could save me now. After she left, I packed up what little I had, my Glock, some cash, a burner, and an old photo of the crew from back when things were still good. Then I hit the streets. I kept low, moving through alleys, staying in the shadows. The night air was heavy with smog and tension. The block had a heartbeat. Cars idling slow, people arguing in doorways, laughter cutting through fear. It was home, but it felt like it was rejecting me now. I crashed at an old auto shop off Central. The owner, Big Ron, owed me a favor from back when I helped him get his cousin out of a mess. He let me stay in the back room, where it smelled like oil and metal. I barely slept. Next day I started digging. I went to see an old head named Smoke, a quiet dude who'd been around since the early 90s, knew everybody and everything. He stayed off the grid, but if anyone could trace his setup, it was him. When I showed up at his spot, he gave me a long look before letting me in. "Word is, you a dead man walking, Trey," he said, lighting a blunt. "You really want to stir the pot again? I need to know who played me," I said. "You heard anything about who tipped the cops off that night?" Smoke exhaled slow. "I heard name. Somebody been talking to the feds. But it ain't you. I leaned in. Who? He hesitated, then said, there's a dude called Red, small-time dealer, used to push for D-Lock. They say he got popped 2 weeks before your raid. Cut a deal to walk. But here's the thing. That raid wasn't even supposed to be on your set. Cops got fed the wrong address. My jaw tightened. You saying they used me as the scapegoat for a mistake? He nodded. For a plan. I left Smoke's place with a storm brewing in my head. If Red snitched and D-Lock used that to wipe me out, it meant this wasn't about money. It was about power. That night, I parked across from one of our old hangouts, a liquor store on Rosecrans. I saw D-Lock's car pull up, him and Snipe stepping out, laughing like they owned the world. They both wore blue hoodies, heavy chains, rings shining under the streetlights. I felt my fist clench just watching them. I could have taken a shot right then. But that wasn't revenge. That was suicide. I needed to make them pay the right way. So I waited. I watched. Over the next few days, I tailed them. They were getting comfortable, running deals, collecting from corners, flexing like kings. And that's when I spotted Red, alive, walking right beside Snipe, wearing the same smug grin. My chest went cold. The rat was working with them now. Everything clicked into place. They had set me up with the cops, blamed me for the fallout, then used the chaos to climb the ladder. I was nothing but a memory to them, a ghost they thought they buried. But ghosts come back. I followed Red for 2 nights straight. He stayed at a rundown motel on Long Beach Boulevard. On the 3rd night, I broke in. He was sitting on the bed, watching TV, half drunk. He didn't even hear me until I had the gun pressed to his temple. He froze, eyes wide. Joe, tada, what? Don't speak my name, I said. You lucky I ain't pulled this trigger yet. Tell me why you did it. He started shaking. Man, I ain't have a choice. Feds caught me with 2 keys. Bro said I was facing 10 years unless I gave him something. D-Lock came to me, said he'd handle it. Told me to tell them about that stash house drop. Said it'd make me look good and keep him out of it. I swear I didn't know they was going to use you. I stared at him. My hand tightened on the grip. You think that makes it better? He was sweating hard now, tears forming in the corners of his eyes. Please, bro, I was just trying to survive. I lowered the gun for a second, took a step back. You already dead, I said quietly. He opened his mouth to plead again, and I fired once. The sound was deafening. Blood splattered across the wall. I didn't flinch. I just stood there, breathing hard, staring at the body. It didn't feel like justice. It felt like another piece of me dying. I wiped the gun clean, walked out, and disappeared into the night. The streets felt different after that, quieter, like they were watching me back. I knew D-Lock would find out soon enough. He knew it was me, but I wasn't running anymore. It was time to take everything back. My name, my respect, my place. Over the next few days, I reached out to some old allies, guys who'd left the set, who hated what D-Lock turned it into. There was Rondo, a tall dude with neck tattoos and eyes like steel. He ran with me back in the day. Then there was Kilo, a silent hitter who'd been blackballed after questioning D-Lock's leadership. We met up in an abandoned basketball court one night. The chain nets were rusted, the court cracked with weeds. They stood across from me, both skeptical. You really want to go to war with your own set? Rondo asked. That's suicide, Trey. I ain't going to war, I said. I'm taking back what's mine. Kilo nodded slowly. What's the plan? I looked at them both. We hit D-Lock where it hurts, his money. They got a warehouse off 133rd they using to move product. I know the drop schedule. We take that shipment, make it look like an inside job. Then we expose the truth that he's working with a Fed snitch. Rondo smirked. You trying to burn his empire down? I stared at the cracked court beneath my feet. I ain't trying. I will. The plan was dangerous. If it failed, I'd be done for good. But if it worked, it would destroy D-Lock's credibility overnight. The streets don't forgive rats, or the ones who work with them. We started prepping that night. Weapons, masks, cars, timing. Every detail had to be clean. And as I loaded my gun, I caught my reflection in the broken mirror of an old locker. For a second, I didn't even recognize myself, just a hollow man chasing ghosts. But then I thought about all the years I gave to that set, the blood, the loyalty, the lives lost. And I knew one thing. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about respect. When the night came, the air felt electric. We rolled out in 2 cars, headlights off, hearts pounding. As we got closer to the warehouse, I could see the blue glow of the security lights, hear faint music inside. Probably the young Crips counting product, thinking the world was theirs. I turned to Rondo. Once we hit, no going back. He nodded. Ain't no going back for any of us, bro. Then we moved. We cut the lights, broke the lock, and slipped inside. The smell of gun oil and brick dust filled the air. Stacks of crates lined the walls. For a moment, everything was still, too still. Then a voice came from the dark. Well, look who finally showed up. I turned, and there was D-Lock, standing at the far end of the room, flanked by Snipe and 2 others, all strapped and ready. My heart sank. They knew, and that's when I realized Maya was right. They'd been watching me since day one. This was never just about survival. It was a trap inside trap. The next few seconds exploded into chaos. Gunfire lighting up the darkness, glass shattering, people yelling. I hit the floor, fired back blind, saw Rondo drop beside me, blood pouring from his shoulder. The smell of gunpowder filled the air, and the sound of my own heartbeat drowned out everything else. In that storm of bullets, I caught sight of D-Lock ducking behind crate, and for a split second, our eyes met. I saw fear in his, and that was all I needed. I moved fast, sliding across the floor, firing back, blood roaring in my ears. If I was going to die tonight, it was going to be on my terms. That's when I felt the burn in my side, a bullet grazing my ribs. I stumbled, fell behind a stack of crates, clutching my wound. The room spun. The gunfire echoed like thunder. And somewhere in the smoke, I heard D-Lock's voice. You should have stayed gone, Trey. I gritted my teeth, loaded my last clip, and whispered to myself. Yeah, but ghosts don't stay buried forever. Then I rose to my feet, ready to finish what they started. Chop skazal. Blood was running down my ribs when I stood up, hot and sticky under my shirt. The warehouse echoed with gunfire. Sharp pops bouncing off metal walls, flashes cutting through the dark like lightning. Every sound felt too loud, too close. I could taste the iron in the air, smell the gun oil and dust. I ducked behind a crate, breathing hard, every breath burning. The pain in my side was sharp, but the adrenaline drowned it. I wasn't leaving that place until D-Lock was on the ground, one way or another. Rondo was lying a few feet away, clutching his shoulder, still alive, but barely moving. Kilo was pinned down behind a forklift, firing short bursts whenever a shadow moved. We were outnumbered, but I didn't care anymore. It wasn't about odds. It was about making sure those who betrayed me saw what loyalty really meant when it came back for revenge. Yo, tra. D-Lock's voice echoed from somewhere behind stacks. Ain't no need to hide, homie. You done. His tone wasn't the cocky laugh I remembered. It was tight, almost desperate. He was trying to control the situation, but I could hear it in his voice. He wasn't ready for a ghost to come back and drag him into the dirt. I wiped the blood from my side, steadied my breath, and called out, You sure about that, D-Lock? 'Cause last time I checked, real Crips don't set up their own. Silence. Then Snipe yelled back, voice full of venom. You set us up first, fool. We just cleaned the mess. I laughed bitter. You still believing your own lies, huh? You two been playing the block for clowns, feeding the feds, selling out brothers for cash and rank. You think the street's gonna love you for that? D-Lock fired 3 rounds my way, bullets slicing through the wood. Streets love whoever holds the power, Trey. You lost yours. You should have stayed buried. He didn't understand. Power ain't about who got the most guns or money. It's about who people trust. And he broke that bond the moment he turned on me. I looked at Rondo. His eyes were glassy, pain flooding his face. You still got a clip left? He nodded weakly, sliding his pistol toward me. Make it count, bro. I grabbed it, tucked one gun in my waistband, and crawled toward the far side of the warehouse where the light was dimmer. My breath was ragged, every movement scraping against the wound, but I kept moving. The sound of footsteps echoed. D-Lock's crew spreading out, sweeping through the aisles. Then I heard Kilo yell, "On your left." Gunfire erupted again. 2 bursts, then silence. I looked over. Kilo was gone. The forklift was covered in blood. It was just me now. I crouched low, counting my ammo, feeling the rhythm of the chaos. The whole place was smoke and echoes. You couldn't tell where anyone was until it was too late. I heard one of D-Lock's soldiers whispering, "He's still here, man. Dude's like a ghost." Good. Let them believe that. I waited until he stepped past the gap between the crates. Then I shot him once in the chest. He fell without a sound. I moved deeper into the maze of crates, staying in the shadows. Every few seconds, I could hear D-Lock's voice barking orders, trying to sound in control. "Snipe. Get to the east door. Don't let him out." I followed the sound. When I finally saw them, they were standing by the exit, D-Lock with his pistol drawn, Snipe covering his back. The light from the overhead lamp hit their faces just enough for me to see that they weren't smiling anymore. They looked hunted. I stepped out from behind the crates, guns up. Ain't nowhere left to run. Snipe turned first, eyes wide. "Jo, tra." I fired twice. One bullet caught him in the shoulder, spinning him to the ground. The other hit the metal door behind him, sparks flying. D-Lock dove behind a crate, returning fire. Bullets tore through the air, slamming into wood and concrete. One grazed my arm, but I kept advancing. We circled each other through the smoke and noise, trading shots, the air thick with gunpowder. Then my gun clicked empty. Silence. For a moment, it was just the sound of the warehouse settling, metal creaking, a distant siren outside, and my own heart pounding in my ears. D-Lock's voice came low, close. "You always thought you was better than me, huh? Thought you ran the block." I dropped the empty mag, loaded the last one from my pocket. "I didn't run it. I protected it. You just wanted to own it." He stepped out, face twisted, gun trembling slightly. "You was getting soft, Trey. Talking about rules, about codes. Ain't no rules in the jungle. It's whoever got the loudest gun." I smirked through the pain. "Then pull yours." He didn't. For a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or just the ghost of the brother I used to trust. We'd come up together, from slinging dime bags on corners to running sets to burying friends side by side. And now we were standing here, aiming death at each other. "Why'd you do it?" I asked, voice low. "You could have just walked away. You didn't have to ruin my name." He looked down just for a second. "You was in the way." That was all I needed to hear. I fired once. The shot hit him square in the chest. He staggered, eyes wide, mouth opening like he wanted to say something, but no words came out. He fell backward against the crate, sliding down slow until he hit the floor. For a long moment, I just stood there, breathing, gun shaking in my hand. It was done. The man who betrayed me, the one who turned my world inside out, was gone. I walked over to him, crouched down. Blood was spreading across his hoodie, soaking into the blue fabric. He looked up at me, barely breathing. "You think this changes anything?" he whispered. I stared at him. "Yeah, changes everything." His head slumped to the side, and he was gone. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked around, the smoke clearing, the flashing lights of police cars starting to bounce through the broken windows. Someone must have called it in. I could hear sirens getting closer. Snipe was still alive, groaning on the ground, clutching his shoulder. He looked up at me, blood on his lips. "You gonna finish me too?" I walked over, kicked his gun away. "Nah, I want you to live with it. You tell them all what really happened. Tell them D-Lock was working with the feds. Tell them you helped set me up. Let the streets decide what you're worth." He tried to spit at me, but he didn't have the strength. I left him there. The sirens were close now, maybe a minute out. I limped toward the back of the warehouse, slipped through a side door into the night. The cold air hit me like a wave. My side was burning, blood soaking through my shirt. I stumbled down the alley, using the wall to stay upright. The city lights blurred in my vision. Every sound, the echo of my footsteps, the distant hum of traffic, the faint barking of dogs, felt like it was coming from somewhere far away. I made it to the car, collapsed behind the wheel. My hands were shaking, my vision tunneling. When I finally looked at myself in the rearview mirror, I barely recognized the man staring back. Eyes hollow, face covered in sweat and blood, blue rag tied tight around his wrist. But there was something else there too. Peace. I drove until the city lights faded behind me, until the noise of Compton was just a memory. Ended up in a quiet spot by the canal, parked under an overpass where the walls were covered in graffiti, names of people who'd come and gone, legends turned ghosts. I sat there, watching the water move slow and dirty beneath the concrete. In that silence, all the faces came back. My brother, the soldiers we lost, the nights we laughed, the mornings we buried bodies before sunrise. The block took everything from me, but it also made me who I was. I pulled out the photo I'd kept, the old crew, back when we still believed in something. We were just kids then, thinking we were invincible. Now they were all gone. I didn't notice the headlights until they flashed across the canal. A car had pulled up behind me. I tensed, reaching for the gun, but then I saw her. Maya stepped out, had pulled up moving slow. She came to the driver's side, looked at me through the window. "You okay?" I opened the door, leaned my head back. "Define okay." She smiled weakly. "I heard the sirens on 133rd. They said there was a shootout. I knew it had to be you." I didn't answer. She looked down, saw the blood. "You need a hospital." I shook my head. "Can't go near one. They'll lock me up before I even get a bandage." She sighed, sat in the passenger seat. "So what now?" I stared at the water again. "Now, I disappear. Let the streets talk. Snipe's alive. He'll spread the truth. D-Lock's name gonna be dirt by sunrise. The block will eat its own." Maya was quiet for a long time. Then she said softly, "And what about you, Trey? You still part of that world?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about everything. The loyalty, the betrayal, the blood. How the gang became my home, my curse, my whole identity. Finally, I said, "I don't know what I am anymore, but I know what I ain't. I ain't their ghost no more." She nodded, her eyes glistening in the dim light. Maybe that's enough. We sat there, listening to the city breathe, the hum of cars, the faint thump of bass from somewhere far off, the sound of sirens fading into the distance. Then she reached out and took my hand, the blue rag still wrapped around it. "You can't keep living for revenge, Trey. It'll kill you faster than any bullet." I looked at her, tired and hollow. Revenge was all I had left. She squeezed my hand. "Then find something else." Her words cut through the fog in my head, simple but heavy. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to stop being defined by the block. But the block, it don't let you go easy. A week later, I was holed up in a cheap motel outside Long Beach, healing slow. The wounds still burned, but I could move again. I watched the news. No mention of me. But there was talk of internal chaos among the Crips. D-Lock's name came up in connection to federal cooperation. Rumors spread fast. In the hood, being labeled a snitch is worse than death. His whole empire crumbled overnight. Snipe disappeared. Probably hiding, maybe already gone. Part of me wanted to go back, to see the neighborhood, to prove something. But the smarter part knew that my story was over there. I had survived the streets, but I didn't belong to them anymore. Still, late at night, when the world went quiet, I'd think about the sound of those sirens, the smell of gunpowder, the look on D-Lock's face before he fell. And I'd feel it all over again. The pain, the loyalty, the loss. Some ghosts don't fade. They just learn to walk in daylight. I pulled the blue rag from my wrist and laid it on the nightstand. Stared at it for a long time. It wasn't just cloth. It was everything I'd lived and bled for. But it was also everything that nearly killed me. So I left it there. As the sun came up over the city, painting the sky orange and gold, I realized something I'd never understood before. The block don't owe you nothing. You either die proving your worth, or you live long enough to see what it really costs. And me? I paid in full. The sun was barely up when I left the motel. I walked out slow, hoodie pulled tight, the smell of sea, air, and gasoline mixing in the morning wind. My ribs still ached from the bullet that grazed me, but the wound was healing, just not the one inside. It had been 2 weeks since that night at the warehouse. 2 weeks since I put D-Lock in the dirt and left Snipe bleeding out, forced to face the truth. And the streets had changed overnight. The Crips were fractured. Some sets turned on each other. Others tried to rebuild under new leadership. The name D-Lock was poison now. Everybody whispered that he'd been working with the feds, that the whole setup had been his way of saving his own skin. And me? I was still a ghost. Some said I was dead. Others said I fled to Mexico. Only a few knew the truth. I was still out here, watching, breathing, waiting to figure out what came next. But the truth is, when you've lived your whole life by the code of the block, you don't just walk away. You can change your name, your clothes, your city, but the streets stay in your bones. Every corner, every siren, every sound of tires screeching at night, it stays with you like a scar that never fades. I'd been staying near San Pedro, in a rundown apartment above a laundromat. The owner didn't ask questions, and I didn't give any answers. The room was small, peeling walls, one flickering light, a mattress on the floor. But it was quiet, and quiet was something I hadn't had in years. Every night, I'd sit on the balcony with a cigarette, looking at the skyline, listening to the city hum below. Some nights I thought about leaving for real, maybe head out to Vegas or Texas, start fresh. But then I'd remember the faces. Rondo, who died in that warehouse. My brother, locked up because of gang politics. Maya, risking her life to warn me. And I'd feel that weight again, like I still owed them something. One night, I got a text from an unknown number. Meet me on 108th, 10 p.m. Alone. No name. Just that. For a minute, I thought about ignoring it. Could have been a trap. Probably was. But curiosity, or maybe guilt, pulled me in anyway. I rolled up at 10 sharp, keeping the burner tucked close. The block was quiet, too quiet. The streetlights buzzed overhead, painting the cracked asphalt gold. Then I saw her. Maya. She was standing by the old basketball court, same one where me and Rondo used to shoot hoops as kids before the set took over. I walked up slow. You really got to stop texting me from burner phones, I said. She smiled faintly. I had to make sure you'd come. What's this about? She hesitated, glancing around before stepping closer. Snipe's alive. The words hit me like a punch. I thought he bled out that night. But Maya went on. He's been talking. To everybody. Says you killed D-Lock because you wanted the throne. Says you're still working with the feds. I clenched my jaw, hands balling into fists. He really want to die that bad? Maya shook her head. He's desperate. The set's falling apart, and he's trying to rebuild it under his name. He's using your story to do it, calling you a traitor, saying you flipped on the block. I looked past her, at the court, the faded graffiti, the ghost of what used to be our kingdom. So that's it, huh? I clear my name, and the next rat tries to wear the crown. She stepped closer, voice soft. You can't go back, Trey. Not again. Let burn. Walk away. I met her eyes, dark, tired, but still holding that spark of hope I'd lost years ago. You don't get it, Maya. As long as that man's out there using my name, I ain't free. She sighed, shaking her head. Then you'll die with it. I didn't answer. I just turned and walked away. Finding Snipe wasn't hard. Word on the street was he'd been laying low at one of D-Lock's old spots. A trap house near 112th, half boarded up, with blue lights flickering in the windows. He'd been recruiting new faces, young hitters too dumb to know the real story. I scoped the place for 2 days straight. He was trying to act like a boss now, standing out front, gold chain swinging, fake confidence dripping off him. But I could see it, the paranoia in his eyes, the way he kept checking over his shoulder. He knew I was coming. The third night, I made my move. The air was thick with heat, the sky a deep purple bruise. I parked 2 blocks away and walked the rest on foot, hoodie up, gun in hand. Every step echoed. Every sound made my heart beat louder. When I reached the block, 2 guards were posted outside. Young, reckless, high on ego. I crept up behind the first one, pressed the gun to his neck. "Don't move." He froze. I knocked him out cold, quiet, and fast. The second one turned too late. One punch, and he was down. I slipped through the door. The inside reeked of weed, sweat, and betrayal. Snipe was sitting in the living room, counting money with 3 of his new soldiers. He looked up, and his face went pale. "Well, damn," he said, voice cracking. "The ghosts really do walk." "Yeah," I said, stepping closer. "And I came to collect." One of his boys went for his gun. I didn't hesitate, fired once, clean through the chest. The other 2 froze, fear plastered on their faces. "Out," I said. "Now." They bolted through the door without looking back. Now it was just me and him. Snipe raised his hand slightly. "Trey, listen." "Don't talk," I said. "You already told enough lies." He shook his head. "You don't understand, man. D-Lock made me do it. He said if I didn't back his play, he'd kill me too. When all went bad, I did what I had to do." I stared at him, eyes cold. "And now you're doing it again. Spreading lies, hiding behind my name. You ain't built for this life, Snipe. You're just surviving off dead men's stories." He laughed nervously, sweat dripping down his forehead. "Man, come on, Trey. We could work this out. We rebuild. You and me. Bring the block back, clean slate." I cut him off. "There ain't no rebuilding what we already burned." He saw in my eyes then the finality. He went for his gun, but I was faster. One shot, right through the chest. He staggered, fell back against the couch, money scattering like confetti in the air. His blood splashed across the wall, mixing with the graffiti behind him. The same blue crown we used to tag as kids. He looked up at me, voice trembling. "We was brothers, man." I looked down, feeling nothing. "We were." Then he was gone. I stood there for a long time, staring at the mess, the smoke still curling from the barrel. It didn't feel like victory. It felt empty, hollow. Every death brought me closer to freedom, but further from who I used to be. I left the house without looking back. Outside, the night was quiet again. No sirens, no yelling, just the wind moving through the empty streets. I walked until I reached the edge of the block, where the lights faded and the city opened up. And that's when I realized I was finally done. There was no one left to fight, no one left to prove anything to. The set, the code, the loyalty, it all died with them. All that was left was me, and whatever life I could still build from the ashes. A month passed. I got a job at a garage in Long Beach. It wasn't glamorous, fixing busted transmissions, changing oil, keeping my head down. But it was honest. Every morning, I'd put on the blue jumpsuit, grease under my nails, and try to pretend I was just another man trying to make rent. Sometimes the guys at the shop would ask where I was from. I'd just say Compton. They'd nod, like that explained everything. At night, I'd walk the boardwalk, watching the waves crash against the pier, feeling the salt air sting my face. Maya came by sometimes, brought food, checked on me, talked about maybe leaving the city for good. She wanted to start a youth program, something to keep kids from ending up like us. One night, we sat by the water, the sky full of stars. "You ever think about going back?" she asked. I shook my head. "There ain't nothing to go back to. Just ghosts." She smiled softly. "You ever gonna forgive yourself?" I looked at the ocean, endless and dark. "For what?" "Surviving." She didn't answer, just leaned her head on my shoulder. For the first time in years, I let myself breathe. But the streets never stopped whispering. A few days later, I got a letter. No return address. Inside was a photo. Me, working at the garage. Someone had been watching. On the back, in messy handwriting, it said, "The block never forgets." I stared at it for a long time, my chest tightening. Part of me wanted to burn it and move on. Another part, the part that grew up on cracked sidewalks and broken trust, knew what it meant. You don't ever really leave the game. You just buy time before it catches up again. I showed the letter to Maya. She looked scared. "You think it's real?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "Everything on the block's real, even the ghosts." She grabbed my hand. "Then let's go. Tonight. Leave all this behind. We can start fresh somewhere else, somewhere nobody knows your name. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe that was possible. But as I looked out the window at the city glowing under the night sky, I knew the truth. You can't outrun your past if it lives inside you. Still, maybe I could choose something different this time. Not violence, not revenge, just peace. So I packed my bag. We left before sunrise. No goodbyes, no explanations. Just two broken souls heading towards something we didn't understand but needed to believe in. We drove south, past the city limits, the skyline shrinking in the rearview mirror. Maya reached over, turned on the radio. Old school R&B came through the static, smooth, soulful, the kind of music that felt like memory. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. As the highway opened up ahead, I thought about everything I'd lost, friends, family, a name that once meant something. But maybe losing it all was the only way to finally be free. I didn't know what waited for me on the other side. Maybe peace, maybe more ghosts. But whatever it was mine to face. And for the first time, the streets weren't calling me back. They were letting me go. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I still see it all. The block at sunset, blue rags waving from car mirrors, the sound of laughter mixed with gunshots, the smell of smoke after a drive-by. That world made me and broke me. Taught me how to survive, but never how to live. But now, when I dream of it, I don't feel the anger anymore. I just feel the silence after the gunfire, the quiet I fought my whole life to find. Maybe that's what redemption really is. Not forgiveness from others, not even forgiveness from yourself. Just the courage to stop fighting ghosts. And as I watch the road stretch out ahead, I finally understand. The block might never forget me, but I don't belong to it anymore. I belong to the life I still have left.